Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Three Men Talking Fantasy Football. Today we are going over Week 13, all the matchups, the starts, the sits, the lines. I am here with Mr. Tom Lang and Mr. Anthony Perez. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Doing good, Mr. Billy DeCouslis.
Very, very good. Are we
There you
ready
go.
for some serious matchups as we dive into this right here?
Oh yeah, we're gonna give some thanks this week. Let's get it.
Playoff implications are on the line too.
Yeah, some
Oh,
of us have already clinched first round buys, but some of us have to make our way through.
No, not yet, not yet.
that's very true. Yeah, it's not like we're referencing our own leagues. Let's jump right in. We've got a full slate of games. No teams are on bye this week, so we've got 16 full games to cover. So we'll blitz them all out to you. We'll be doing this every week now. This is our second show to complement our waiver show, and we thank everybody for joining with us. So let's dive right into the Thursday game, and that'll be on Thanksgiving. I think it's the early game on Thanksgiving. The Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions. The FanDuel Sportsbook line Detroit minus 10.5 with the over-under of a very nice 48.5 points. If I had to choose, I think Detroit covers this game. And basically fire up all your Detroit assets and commodities. How do
Yeah.
you guys see this game going?
Uh, I feel that it's a divisional game. They usually play each other pretty strongly. The Bears defense has been looking fairly decent. Our offense is looking pretty decent past couple weeks. With the injury of David Montgomery, who knows if he's going to be 100% healthy. That's obviously a revenge game for Montgomery this week. But I think it's going to be closer than you think. The Lions offense, they've been playing extremely well, but there's been some, little short spells the past couple weeks as well. So I think that actually the Bears are going to cover this one. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I do think that this is going to be a real good first game of the week, and it's going to come down to the wire potentially. I mean, I think that they might win by 4 points. The Lions, they're going to win the game, but I think it's going to be a closer game than you think.
I'm all on board with Billy here. Fire everybody on the Lions offense and just start them with confidence and play them. I don't think this game is going to be close at all. I think Detroit wins very comfortably on Thanksgiving. They're a force to be reckoned right now, averaging almost 50 points in their last 3 games. So I see that trend continuing. I mean, the Bears defense isn't the worst, but that Lions offense is just moving on all cylinders right now. And I'm even thinking Sam Laporta is going to get a touchdown on Thanksgiving. I think he's going to have a good game. I think he's going to eat and come back to fantasy relevance a little bit.
Question for
Well,
you guys. Sorry,
yeah.
question for you guys. Would you guys, if you had both David Montgomery and Gibbs this week, based on that defense against the Bears, do you start both of them, or do you
Well, Montgomery got dinged up, didn't he?
Well, so I'm saying, he got dinged up, but he is showing on track to be playing, but he might not be 100%. Again, it's a revenge game. He's going against his old team, the Bears, who drafted him. But I mean, do you take the risk and start him against a stingy Bears defense?
If Bears is playing, if Montgomery's playing, that's it. Lock him in. I think. I think.
Okay.
I think.
I'm just saying, if you had both of them, you would start both of them on your roster.
Yeah.
I
If you,
would. I would. I have both in my other league actually, and I play them both every week if they're healthy together, and they both average about the same amount of fantasy points. So I'd start
Okay.
them with confidence.
speaking of which, on the Detroit side, so we just said if Montgomery's available, you play him. Gibbs, obviously, you play him. St. Brown got dinged up, but if he's playing, fire him up. If he is out. Oh, I should even say, regardless if he's in or out, and we had some discussions on Jamison Williams this week. He's a decent option. They basically have 30 implied points. I don't know how you sit Jamison Williams at this point. You guys agree?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that. You can
And
start them.
like I said yesterday, I mean, he's one of my Boomer best guys. So against this defense, I mean, I think that this is the defense where he's going to have an opportunity to have a big play. So he might get you the 15 to 16 point ratio right over there. I think that's his peak though. So he's not those numbers are wide receiver two numbers. So he could be in position to be a flex play if needed.
If St. Brown's out, I think maybe it's perhaps you could take a shot on Khalif Raymond or Tim Patrick. Um,
Yeah.
the
If
worst.
St.
Well,
Brown is if St. Brown is out, I would most definitely consider Raymond as a strong flex play this week if St. Brown doesn't play.
yeah. I mean, I got a question actually because I know we'll probably transition to the next game, but with a start sit opportunity, would you start David Montgomery over Tracy on the Giants?
Well, yeah, I just said if
Yeah,
Montgomery's
I,
playing,
I
you
would.
lock in Montgomery. Yeah, I mean,
Okay. So you'd been so if you had an option in a flex position between Montgomery or Tracy, you would start Montgomery over Tracy.
if
I would,
Montgomery
yeah.
is playing on Thursday, there's no question I'm playing him. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Quick question. So, I mean, the Goff situation. So, Goff's been unbelievable, and he has games where he's going for 70 quadrillion points, and games where he goes for like 10 to 12 points because they get all the rushing touchdowns. It's not a part and parcel of how good the team is. I mean, we have a 48 and a half over under, a 30-point implied team total for Detroit. It's hard to just justify saying that, oh, therefore we're iffy on Goff, but considering how they score the ball, I think that there's some better options, but I guess you could do worse than Goff if you had to. Um, let's jump to the Bears real quick. We had a little conversation on the Bears wide receiver situation. I think you can't ignore what Keenan Allen did. I feel like he's worth firing right back up. How do you guys see the other wide receivers? How do you guys see the other assets there potentially?
Well, I mean, if your perspective is correct of the Lions blowing out the Bears, then they're going to be throwing the ball like it's their job all day long. And Caleb Williams is bound to have a good day, meaning, the rest of the receiving crew is going to have a big day. I don't agree that neither is going to happen. I think that it's going to be a stingy defensive game. Um, I just believe that, it's he might get the targets, but he's not getting those heavy targets. He might see about anywhere from 6 to 7 targets, this week with maybe 4 or 5 catches.
But I do agree with Tommy there. I think that the Bears are going to be facing a negative game script for most of the game, in that aspect. So I do agree that they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, to try to keep pace with the Lions. Could be a big day for DJ Moore, again this week. He'd be the one that I'd most confidently play out of this matchup. It's hard to see Keenan Allen do what he did last week again against this Lions defense, but I could be wrong.
You playing Swift or you trying to sit him?
I'd probably sit Swift on this one.
Yeah, that's well, like I said, I think he might be a flex play for me if I had him and I needed basically because he's going to be getting some dump off passes in the backfield. I don't see it being a Roshan Johnson opportunity to steal a touchdown game. I think if anybody's going to get it, it's going to be Swift.
All right. Anybody else you want to mention? Well, we'll move on.
Yeah, I think the Giants Dallas game could be a very quick conversation.
Yeah. So let's just get right into that. Thanksgiving Day. So the New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas minus 3.5, over under 37.5 points. Yuck.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess not too much to talk about for the Giants. Giants, I guess you
Well,
play Tyrone. Yeah, sorry,
Well,
go
I
ahead.
will say there is something to talk about. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Well, it does maybe because that means Drew Lock is actually going to see some field time. But Danny DeVito or Tommy DeVito, he has I think it was an elbow or shoulder injury or something like
Right.
that. And he is looking doubtful to play this week. So the sideshow is sideshowed. And basically, in Dallas, you're gonna have Drew Lock. So Drew Lock is gonna be gunslinging it. Who knows? I mean, I don't see the Giants win this game, but because the Dallas defense showed up last week against a really good Washington offense. Um, but we'll see.
You play
Uh,
neighbors, you play Tyrone, and check out the Giants.
Uh, Wandell might be an option as well. I think Wandell is a little streamy player right there. You could flex him potentially. Like I said, they're going to be really slinging it. They'll be running a lot more play action as well with Tracy. Tracy's been opening up the field a little bit more. I mean, he's obviously got to break some runs to actually make that happen. Again, Cowboys defense could be very stingy, so who knows? But I, I think the players that you can look at to start, number one, obviously Tyrone Tracy. You can't bench him. He's too elusive. He's too good.
If he fumbles again, he could lose his spot.
Yeah, it did
He,
happen. It did happen last week. They took him out right away, and Singletary was in there for a little bit.
yeah, but then they realized how bad Singletary was compared to Tracy.
Yeah, he got a touchdown. They let him get that.
Yeah.
I
So
do. I do think. I do think. I would probably take a chance on Neighbors this week, especially after last week. I know he threw a fit after the game was over in the locker room.
And usually when that happens, they blow up.
Um, and they had a discussion with Dable afterwards because he was frustrated that he wasn't involved in the game plan early on, and they waited till the Buccaneers were up 30-0 to start getting the ball. Look, he's your best weapon right now. There's no more Saquon Barkley. Neighbors
Mhm.
is it, and as an offense, and this is in general, you have to find ways to get your playmaker the ball. And the Giants just really weren't doing that. So I could see why he's frustrated. So I think this could potentially be a big game for him. I mean, he's practically their offense along with Tracy.
Yeah.
on the Cowboys side, if CD is playing, you play CD. If he's out, like we were saying, maybe you could take a shot on Tolbert. But the way I see Dallas is Rico Suave. If you need a starting running back, there you go. That's your option. But I'm actually on Tommy's end of fire up Schoonmaker if Ferguson is out. If Ferguson's in, fire up Ferguson, and then maybe close your eyes for the rest of the Dallas team.
Yeah, the tight ends are where it's at on that roster right now. So whoever's the starting tight end is going to get the fair share.
Question: would you take a chance on streaming Cooper Rush if you really need a quarterback this week?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. There you go.
Again, I think I
even
think
even
I
against
think
even against the poor Giants defense.
no, they're not a poor Giants defense. They're still hitting the quarterback.
I think that that's a bridge too far, Anthony.
Yeah, I think the Giants defense right now, talking about Giants and Jets fans, and I think the Giants defense has been playing a little bit better than the Jets defense, and they're worse on
let's
paper.
let's move on to a better game. So we've got the Miami Dolphins at the Green Bay Packers. FanDuel Sports line, Green Bay -3.5. The over/under a much better 47.5 points. On the Miami side, you're starting Achan, you're starting Tyreek, even though it's not been good. And you're starting Jonnu Smith. There we go. Very, very
Yep.
happy about this. I think you're starting Tua. He had a great game, even though some of the other games haven't been so good. Last week was really great. And I feel like Waddle, he's another one, was bad, 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 has an amazing game. How do you guys see Miami here?
Yeah, you want to go?
Oh,
I
go ahead,
like
Tom. Oh,
I
sorry,
like
go
I
ahead.
like the Miami offense a lot in this game, but I will say Green there. You said Green Bay, right?
Yep.
Green Bay has been pretty stingy. Look what they did to the 49ers offense this past week. Granted, I think Allen was the quarterback for the 49ers, but they held McCaffrey to under 7 fantasy points. Um, so I do think Waddle will continue to have
That might have just been a product of the Purdy situation, maybe.
and
But
that's what I thought too. That's why I said I know Allen was at quarterback, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. At that point, you look to stop the run and you stop the playmaker, which they did. Um, but it could be a similar situation in this Miami matchup. I do like the wide receivers. I think Jonnu Smith's going to have a good game, and I think Waddle will have another big game too.
really,
Yeah, I mean, I
I do,
think
yeah.
I will. Let me ask you this question: Would you start Waddle if you have Jaden Reed and Waddle? Would you start Waddle over Jaden Reed?
I'd probably start Waddle.
I agree.
I'm gonna say Jaden Reed, given the Dobbs injury.
Well, here's my thing. Here's my thing with the Miami Dolphins going to Green Bay. They're saying that it's going to be a cold night. They're coming from Miami. Obviously, it's still warmer weather over there. Tua has not played extremely well in the snow or the cold weather. So this could be a game where they have to run first with Achan, utilize Mostert, utilize Wilson, right? No, not Wilson.
Jake.
Wright, Jalen Wright, and start, continuing the little dump offs to Jonnu, utilizing him in the backfield to control the game script, and then they can utilize like a play action to waddle those speedy wide receivers, Tyreek Hill. Odell Beckham has been getting thrown into the mix, but I don't really see much happening with that. Um, you know, I,
Can I stop you just for a second? Because I agree with every single thing you said, except you brought up Jalen Wright. Was that a misspeak, or are you serious about that?
no, Jalen Wright, he's been put in the mix with some of the plays. I mean,
He
so
has so not been. I picked him up because he had been, to your point, he had been increasing in snap percentages.
mhm.
And what did he do last week with it? One catch, a run for negative yards or whatever it was, and then I think he fumbled it. Like it was
But he's still
awful.
getting snaps, right?
It's this is
I'm
that's
not saying I'm not saying start Jalen Wright. I'm just saying that they're going to try to control the ball
You made
with
it
on
part of
the.
the game script. I can't see that. All right, let's just be clear about that. I
Well,
don't
I mean,
see
he's a
that
part of the
happening.
game script if he's getting snaps. So,
He's not getting. He didn't get so many snaps last.
all right.
Anyway, I mean, um, but otherwise, I
But
agree with.
anyway, I think they need to control the ball, and to win this game, they're not going to air it out. They need to control the ball on the ground and utilize some of these little dink and dunk throws to expand the field. And that's where Jonnu Smith and Jalen Waddle are going to get in play. And obviously, Tyreek Hill is going to command a little bit more of a deep threat. Um, I think Miami wins this game if they are able to control the ball on the ground.
Interesting. All right, let's move on to Green Bay. Josh Jacobs, you're playing him. Jaden Reed, I might be more fire on Reed than you guys are, but I still think you plug him in and you play him, especially with the Dobbs injury.
Yeah, and
Uh,
he is the wide receiver one there.
yeah,
He
no, you're
he's
right.
he's the only one you could trust to get potential targets every single week. Whether it's 2 to 15 targets, he's gonna see the ball. He's not gonna have a donut like Kraft, and I really hope he doesn't have a donut this week after me just saying that. But um, you know, he definitely commanding targets. He is like your atypical Tyreek Waddle kind of player who's gonna be able to spread the field.
Right. By the way, I know just for the sake of stats, so he ended up with 28 rushing yards and a fumble lost of one catch, Jalen Wright, on the
Okay.
entire game. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah,
All right,
I
I
mean,
could see
Raheem
Christian
Mostert
Watson
hasn't done
coming down
anything
with a
either.
touchdown this game.
what'd you say, Anthony?
I could see Christian Watson coming down with a touchdown this game easily.
He has to catch it.
Yeah, I think he's due. I think he's due for one. Could be two.
We'll see. Are you how Anthony is a resident Love manager? How are you on Love here?
I like the matchup. I think you could start him with confidence this week. Me personally, I'm probably for another game, but I probably start Baker. I have Baker as well. I'm probably gonna start him over Love just because I like the matchup a little bit better. And Baker is just playing unbelievable football right now.
Right.
But Love, absolutely. I'd start with confidence. I could see him having at least 300 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Let's move on to the next game. We've got Las Vegas
Uh,
Raiders
I'm excited about this one.
at the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City minus 12 and a half. And I think the line has moved actually. Over under 42 and a half points. That does not give Las Vegas many points. So fire up your Chiefs defenses. On the Let's start with the easy. So on the Chiefs side, Patrick Mahomes has been doing great last couple of weeks, especially last week. Fire him up, especially against the Raiders. He torches them. Um,
See, I'm
and
actually I'm gonna disagree with you there real quick. I think this is a trap
really,
game. I think this is a trap game for the Chiefs.
so you're
Yeah.
gonna sit Patrick
No,
Mahomes?
I'm not sitting Patrick Mahomes. I think in general, all I'm saying is I think the Raiders are gonna pull this one out.
Well, well,
Wow,
well, well, would you
Yeah.
would you rather start like say Patrick Mahomes or Kyler Murray this week?
Patrick Mahomes.
I'd probably still start Patrick Mahomes over Murray, but I do think that this is going to be a lot tougher. So the last few years, the Raiders have played the Chiefs actually really, really tough. No matter how bad the Raiders are, for some reason, when they play Kansas City, They bring their A game. And I think what was it 2 years ago? It might have even been last year. They beat them.
Yep.
They did. That was a bad
Um,
game.
Well,
and
yeah,
it was
they
so.
usually take one game a year. It's or every other year they take one game out of
Yeah.
it. So
And if you watch Kansas City as of late, yes, they've been winning games, but they've been winning by a very small margin.
But
they've been scraping through games.
it's been basically put on the back of more of the
Mahomes.
passing game,
And
more
he comes through,
recently.
and he's Mahomes is always going to come through. Then that's their saving grace is that they could be down, they can be in these close games. Mahomes is clutch. Mahomes is going to get it done time after time. It's been proven, we see it. But I do think that this is a trap game for Kansas City, and I do think the Raiders pull this one out.
Well, trap or no trap, we're in the same bucket of you play Mahomes, you play Kelsey. Um, Tommy, why don't you address the wide receivers and then we'll let Anthony try to sift through his running back
Oh,
situation here.
Well, do you spot start Gray, Jonas Gray?
Noah Gray?
Noah Gray? No, Jonas Gray, Noah Gray?
Jonas Gray, running back for the
Well,
Patriots
Yeah,
8 years ago.
as
right.
of as of right now, it's funny because if you look at the tight end rankings, I think Kelsey's number one and Kate Otton's number three. But Kelsey, the Raiders give up the most points to the tight end. Um, so it's supposed to be a big game for him. It's just where's the ball going to go? Is Mahomes going to find Gray and continue that streak, or is he going to target Kelsey heavily? It's going to
If
be
he does
interesting.
it, I'll tell you what, Tommy, if he does it one more time, I'll I'll be right up in there.
I mean,
But
past 5 weeks. I mean, it's not heavy on targets, but he's catching
I
his
know.
targets 13 for
Listen,
15, 130, and 4 touchdowns.
I'm hoping
Four
for a
touchdowns
three
came in the
touchdown
past two
game.
weeks.
I'm hoping for a three touchdown game from Kelsey this week.
Hopkins
Minimum two.
worthy, Hopkins worthy, and Juju. You start any of them, you start none of them.
Definitely Hopkins. Definitely
Yeah,
Hopkins.
Hopkins is starting every single week. He's targeted for a touchdown pretty much every single week.
And I will say, the Chiefs have been doing a good job in trying to get Worthy involved a lot more the last couple
Hmm.
of weeks.
Though
Um,
you saw that Wildcat that he was back there that
yep,
didn't
and
pan
then
out
he's
so well.
last two games though he's been averaging at least 6 or 7 targets a game, so that it's a positive for him. And
Yeah,
I think
they're trying to get creative with him, and I
yeah,
mean he's definitely a player to get creative with, like how they had a Tyreek Hill, but he's definitely not on the same caliber or even close to there yet.
no, not at all. But some of the play calls that they had for him and some of the catches he made last week, middle of the field, and he ran some good routes, not just deep routes. So it's encouraging. I mean, if you needed a spot flex start, he could be a potential option for a decent game.
No,
Anthony, you're the resident owner of the entire Chiefs backfield. So, given this is going to be Pacheco's second week back, have we? He's not that it's
it's not
completely
his second
irrelevant.
week back. He didn't play last week.
He didn't. I'm sorry, he didn't play last week. It might have been scheduled. But is this with Pacheco back? Obviously, I'm assuming they're going to ease him in. How do you see the backfield playing out? When does Kareem Hunt's value take a dip? What do you think?
So I don't think his value takes a dip much at all, and the reason I say that is because I think that they're going to find ways to get Hunt involved. If anything, I think this definitely hurts Carson Steele and possibly Samaje P. Ryan.
Well, Carson
Um,
Steele hurt
Well,
himself.
they were irrelevant anyway.
yeah, well, at least right now, P. Ryan has been the backup to Kareem Hunt, so he's been on there on third down plays. He's been catching passes. He's been getting a decent amount of work. But I think, obviously Hunt becomes number two, but I think it's going to be an even split. I don't think there's any rush to bring Pacheco back into a full workload, especially because they pretty much have the playoffs locked up. At this point, you kind of just ease him back in, get him ready for the playoffs, shake off the rust. I think Hunt is still going to get carries. I think Hunt still has value. Now I just think it's a matter of who's going to get the touchdowns. That's where things get a little
Oh,
bit tricky.
I think
Um,
Hunt is going to be that guy. I think they use Pacheco in open field to get him some juice running. And I
Same,
honestly I think it's could probably be more of like a 70-30 split for the next 2 weeks, and then they'll ease it to like a 50-50 to a
yeah,
point. And if there's a point where Pacheco is better than Hunt, then they'll phase him out. But I mean I think they'll complement each other pretty well. They're almost equivalent style, same style backs to an extent.
I
Pacheco's
agree. I agree
yeah.
with Tom. I agree with you, Tommy. I think that Hunt has proved too much,
Yeah.
and it's like
They
You're not just
could,
gonna let him walk away like that. Like,
for the playoffs, fantasy football playoffs, they could be players like just kind of like Montgomery and Gibbs. You could start them on the same team every single week
I mean,
potentially.
I think
maybe.
I'd go as far as I'd say that when Kareem Hunt was on the Browns, and it'd be
With
just like a
Chubb,
Chubb Hunt
yeah.
situation again, where they're pretty much split the workload
Well,
and they did well.
Hunt lost a step a little bit from that, or
He
they just
did.
haven't been using him to his abilities as much as they
But
should have.
Andy Reid actually came out today and said he plans, that he basically said Kareem Hunt wasn't going anywhere and that they're going to use both running backs uh, in situational football against the Raiders this week. So we'll see what he
Mhm.
means.
So on the Raiders side, um, I feel like you just plug in Brock Bowers at tight end and let everybody else fall off the face of the planet. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear nothing about the running back situation. Not when your implied points total is 15 points at Kansas City. So, you know, anybody even remotely you're thinking about starting an emergency, anything?
Jacoby Myers is a good option.
Eh,
He had I think he had 10 targets this past week. He actually had 10 catches this past week. Um
that's true, but it's a
last
bad
2 weeks.
matchup now.
No, it's a bad matchup for the running backs. The Kansas City is good at stopping the run. I think because the Raiders, I mean, I still think they might pull this off, but in case of a negative game script for them, they're going to be forced to throw the ball, especially if the run
I
game's not working. Someone's got to catch those targets.
I
And it's
think
not going to be. Go ahead.
sorry, I think the only way that they win this game is if Amir Abdullah has a good game and they can play very good pass defense against Patrick Mahomes. I think that's the only way they win this game. Get a good pass rush, frustrate Patrick Mahomes, utilize Amir Abdullah in some screens.
Well,
Um,
considering that won't happen, but
yeah.
it's a bold prediction.
Well, O'Connell again.
They still have Max Crosby on that line.
That's,
He
I mean,
cre he creates havoc.
Yeah, he
I
didn't
know.
find his. He
I
didn't.
feel like we should be pressing Anthony more on this. He's picking this as an upset. This is quite an upset pick.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Well, it
um,
happens frequently. So
it does.
I over the last few years, I've seen this exact game, and I've seen it time and time again. The Raiders, just for some reason, they do
I
bad
think
all year, but they play the Chiefs extremely well. And that just could be the Chiefs go into that laxy daisy and just, they think it's an easy win. They're not prepared, and they ended up getting rolled over. So
something
we'll
tells me
see.
that won't happen this game. But
Hmm.
all right, let's move on. We've got the LA Chargers away at the Atlanta Falcons. FanDuel Sportsline Atlanta, or excuse me, the Chargers minus 1.5 points. The over/under is 47.5. On the Chargers side, I feel like you fire up Herbert, keep rocking and rolling.
I think this is going to be a fantastic game.
I think it's going to be a great game too. Let's quickly mention I'll grant Mr. Perez and Mr. Lang that go ahead if you've got Disley, go ahead and fire him up. On the pass catching side for the wide receivers, after the Quentin Johnson horrendous performance, I shall not be ever even remotely thinking to play him. But Lad McConkey, fire him up. Do you guys disagree with that statement?
I agree with you, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
No arguments there after that.
No.
No,
So the
Quentin
running back.
Johnson, he's shown who he is, and we've talked about this in the last several shows too. He had some hope, but this is what he is. This is what it's going to continue to be. It's going to be inconsistent from him.
Right.
I mean, the other thing with the running back situation,
Yeah,
I
the running
mean,
backs. You're
nothing.
the resident Chargers running back owner. Yeah.
Well, yeah, nothing really has come out with Dobbins' injury. He went down. He tried coming back in the game. It didn't work out, so he sat out the rest of the game. Uh, Gus Edwards went 9 for 11 and a touchdown. I think it's the most ridiculous stat line I've ever seen. Kind of reminds me of like Jerome Bettis, three, three rushes for 1 yard and two touchdown kind of guy. Um, I mean, it really wasn't much of a revenge game for him. Yeah, I think they're just going to be slinging it for the next couple of weeks. Both teams are going to have to continue to get that, the ball through the air. And I think there's going to be a lot of fireworks in this game. So I would start both quarterbacks on both sides, and expect anywhere from 25 plus quarterback points there.
I think some encouraging news though. what Dobbins was running on the sideline after his injury, um, which leads me to believe that he might be okay. I think him not coming back in the game was more of a precautionary thing just to keep him healthy throughout the rest of the year. And that's just by my judgment of seeing him run on the sideline after um, he came back. But I'm no medical professional. I think it's still worth grabbing
Maybe,
Gus Edwards. Just Dobbins'
especially if you're
injury.
running back needy,
Yeah,
Edwards.
Dobbins just his injury history is too hard to ignore, and it's unfortunate because he's such a talented player, but he's so plagued by these knee injuries. And same thing last night was a knee injury, I believe.
And it
So
was the same knee.
yeah,
But I mean, it wasn't extensive. I mean, the year before it was Achilles. The year before that it was his knee. So yes,
and my last thing too about this game, especially more so about the Chargers offense is, um, it's frustrating in a way because you have Herbert as your quarterback, and as we know, Herbert can sling the ball, and I think Herbert has the potential to be a great quarterback. And I just think that this run-heavy offense that Harbaugh is implementing from his time at Michigan, because I think that he did the same thing when he was in Michigan. They just all ran the ball 90% of the time. Um, I think it's only going to get you so far. You got to use your best players available, and I think Herbert is one of the best players
yeah.
on the offense right now. Granted, they lost Keenan Allen and a bunch of other guys.
Well, he's been making it up with Lad McConkey. I mean, last
Yeah,
week Quentin Johnson really just showed last year's Quentin Johnson, kind of ordeal with not catching the ball. I think Disley is he didn't have a tremendous day, but he had a nice tight end day basically for fantasy. I think he's a lock-in play for this week coming up. And then the same thing on the other side. I think Pitts is a lock-in as well. And you should be able to lock in both London and Mooney. London is your wide receiver one slash low end wide receiver one, and Mooney is your flex play.
Yeah, I was going to mention Atlanta. So obviously Bijan, you're playing Bijan. Captain Kirk. Tommy's big on Captain Kirk this week. I'm not as much. Take of it what you will. Obviously Drake London, you're playing. Mooney, he's been great so far. If you have him, if you don't believe in him, then sit him. But if he has been proving it, I can't deny it. So I mean, rock and roll with Mooney and Pitts. Take your shot. He's in the lower end tight end landscape.
Hmm.
Let's move on. So next game, we've got the Indianapolis Colts at the New England Patriots. Indianapolis minus 2.5. Road favorites. Over under is 42.5 points. Not that many points if we're looking at it.
No.
On the Indianapolis side, you play Jonathan Taylor. And then the rest are, I guess, they kind of just taking some shots. With the Downs injury, I feel like, especially with Richardson slightly improving his throwing capability, you could rock and roll with Michael Pittman. Any other shots there on
Well,
the Indianapolis side?
Pittman might be out this week. So Downs and Pittman
If they're
are
both out, then
if they're
Alec Pierce.
yeah. So as we discussed yesterday, Pierce is definitely a target that you would want to probably flex this week. Um, front the running back side, I think it's going to be more of a running game on the ground. They're going to just play hard-nosed football. Defense could step up a little bit. I think Stevens and also Taylor obviously starts. Stevenson and Taylor are starts this week. And then, the tight end position for the New England Patriots. So, with Henry is definitely a lock as well.
I think we could be in for another upset here this week. I think given the 2.5 spread, I think the Patriots can pull this game out, and I think they can win this one. Especially if Pittman and Downs are out, that's going to be a run heavy offense for the Colts. I could see that happening, and I think Drake May can have a good game against the Colts. Like Tommy said, I think Henry could be in for a good game, and I think the Stevenson could be in for another bounce back week.
I agree. Um, let's move on. So we've got the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Houston road favorites, minus 4.5 points. Over under is 43.5. Does not leave too many points for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Houston runs away with this game. They cover the spread. In the game, you fire up Mixon, and You fire up Nico Collins and maybe take your shots on Tank Dell. Anybody you starting on Jacksonville, guys?
I mean, the only one that I'm feeling more comfortable with this week is Ingram. I'm not sure how I feel with Bigsby or ETN or Thomas. The Houston defense has been playing pretty well. Um, I think, if it was a different situation with the quarterback over there, then yeah, I'd say fire up ETN, Thomas, and Ingram. But I think Ingram is probably your safer play if you need a tight end and he's available, or if he's your tight end, you could feel comfortable with starting him this week.
Yeah, I agree with Tommy. There's just not much on that offense that I'm willing
Yeah,
to play this week. Maybe besides Ingram, if you need a spot at a tight end, he'd probably be your best bet.
yeah,
But
I'm benching ETN.
that's the only person I'd probably consider starting.
As a Tank Dell owner in basically every single league that I have, if he doesn't do it this week, this is it. I might just drop him and let him be a landmine for people.
Please do, because I'll pick him up.
Yeah,
Would you pick him up for John Mechie?
no. It's just a different kind of offense. I mean, we could get it. We won't spend too much time talking about it, but they just seem to be a bit more run focused.
Yep.
Well,
Let's move.
it's working for them. So
It is. So let's get into a horrific game.
Ugh.
We've got the Seattle Seahawks at the New York Football Jets. Seattle Seahawks -1.5. The over under is 41.5 points. Um, not too many points. This is going to be a horrible game. I don't know what the rumors are, what they're not are with Aaron Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor, who's going to play or not. To me, it's irrelevant for the sake of, well, it's relevant for the sake of some of the fantasy options, but in terms of how you're going to bet the game, I don't know exactly how bad the difference is, especially how bad the Jets fans have been calling for everybody's head on a stick. On the Jets side, if Aaron Rodgers plays, you rock and roll with Wilson, and I guess to a lesser degree Devontae with some confidence. If Tyrod plays, I guess you reluctantly shove Wilson out there. How do you see this, Anthony?
So heading into the bye week, Garrett Wilson was wide receiver 5 in
Right.
fantasy purposes. Which is saying he's having a really good year. He's fifth in receptions with 69, 12th in receiving yards with 722. He's averaging about 10 targets per game, with a 27.6 target share. Those are all fantastic numbers and what you want to see, and it's just a recipe for fantasy success. Now, with that said, over the last 4 weeks, the Seattle Seahawks has allowed the most fantasy points to wide receivers, and they've allowed 51 receptions for 556 yards, 5 touchdowns, in their last 3 contests.
That's amazing considering that
So
last week was awful. Like,
yeah, they held Marvin Harrison in check, but he hasn't been having a good year anyways. Um, and I think that Wilson is leagues above Marvin Harrison Jr. right now. He's just a spectacular receiver. So I'm actually starting him with confidence this week. Um, I think he's good
no matter
for.
who's the quarterback.
Yeah, I start him with confidence this week.
Okay. Brees Hall, obviously, you play on the Seattle side. Um, you're playing Ken Walker. You're playing DK Metcalf. I feel like you're locking and loading with
I'm actually
JSN.
probably reconsidering DK Metcalf. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if he's actually going to have a good week.
That's
I mean, but you got to start him if you got him. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
kind
you
of
mean
like, I know we were
he's the
talking
number
about yesterday,
one.
like, I know we were talking yesterday about like Debo Samuel, like, but like, I feel like if you got nobody else on your roster, like if you got, um, let's just put it this way, like if you have a Higgins and a Metcalf, do you start Higgins or Metcalf?
Honestly, I'm probably going to start Higgins, and I'll tell you why. Um, Surprisingly, the Jets defense has only surrendered 1,300 receiving yards this year, which is the second fewest in the league, believe it or not. It blows my mind, but it's the stats. They've only allowed 7 touchdown receptions, and that's ranked fifth in fantasy so far.
Or maybe this harder one, a Jennings or a Metcalf.
I would pay Metcalf if Purdy's not playing. If Purdy's playing, I would
If
play
Purdy's not
Jennings.
playing,
I
if
agree with
Purdy's not
that.
playing.
Then
Well, then
Metcalf.
you start Metcalf.
Right.
But let me say one more thing. Um, Last time the Seahawks played the Jets was back in the 22-23 season, and that's when Sauce uh, was that Sauce's second year, first year. Anyways, he matched up with DK Metcalf in that game. He held him for one reception for 5 yards that entire game.
Right.
Sauce Gardner looks different this year, but I'm interested to see that matchup, and I don't want to be surprised if he held DK Metcalf to low numbers this week.
Well, to your logic there, maybe this is a game that, Gino's been doing good. Maybe try to sit him if you can. But yeah, other than that, not too many guys to talk about. Oh, I forget if we mentioned, yeah, play Ken Walker. All right, let's move on. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals minus 2.5, 46.5 over under. A little bit more points in this game. So we've got a lot of players in the must start category. So you got Joe Burrow, you're playing him. You got Chase Brown, you're playing him. You got Najee Harris, you're playing him. Jamar Chase, you're playing him. And maybe some the guys
This
on either side here. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
this is a game that I'd probably feel more comfortable starting a Fryermuth than a Gesicki.
That's fair.
Based on game script, I think that Fryermuth has more plays drawn for him, and there will be a little bit more of a target zone for him against the Cincinnati defense that he can actually have anywhere from 5 to 7 targets and catch fairly close 90% of those. Let's just put it that way, and maybe a touchdown. Whereas Gesicki, I think he's going to go like maybe 2 or 3 catches for 30 yards, if that.
Pickens, we're rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a start every week right now.
Russ, I think you can play him if you need to.
If you need to, I mean, it's not a bye week, so he might be your QB2 potentially. He might be a streamer. If you're between Russell Wilson and Geno Smith, I would start a Russell Wilson.
I agree with you. And we already talked about Higgins. Maybe take your shot if you need to.
I even like Austin this week. I think he can be in line for another
I
touchdown.
know you're all on Calvin Austin this week.
Listen,
I'm probably more comfortable starting like a Calvin Austin next week when it's by apocalypse again.
I agree with Anthony. I agree with Tommy on this one. Last little note because it became a thing. If you need a spot start at running back, Warren's, like we said, Warren's okay. He'll get you your 10 to 11, 12 points or whatever you need. Let's move it on. We've got the Tennessee Titans at the Washington Commanders. Washington minus 5.5 points. The over-under is 44.5 points. It doesn't leave Tennessee with too many points. On the Washington side, you fire up Jaden Daniels, you fire up McLaurin, and you fire up Zach Ertz. I don't want to hear anything against it. And we could probably have a 2-second conversation about the running backs. If Robinson's out and Eckler's out, which is pretty much what's happening this week, I feel like you just start McNichols with confidence, considering he's already
Yeah,
proved.
you're starting whoever the starting running back is for that week, just plug him in.
Yeah.
what about what's his name? Gonzalez.
No. That's a
Well, I wouldn't say no right off the bat because last time Robinson was hurt, it was Eckler and Gonzalez.
but now Eckler's out going to be out too. And
But
it, but and
what
and
I'm
it's
saying
also
is,
McNichols already proved that he could go nuclear. He had like 1 or 2 weeks. He had like 20, 25 points, whatever it was. I think that's about as deep as you could get, Mr. Perez. Um, on the Tennessee side, we got Calvin Ridley and Nick Westbrook-Akine. I mean, if Levis is going to continue to air it out, then
I feel like you need to, like, he's
you
already
play
proven
both
it.
of them, I guess.
Yeah, I feel more honestly, if I had both of those guys, I probably would start Nick Westbrook-Akine over Ridley right now.
Oh my goodness,
I know it's ballsy.
that's pretty ballsy.
But
Um,
I feel more confident with that because of the red zone targets. Now, that could shoot me in the foot because Ridley can have a 7 reception day for 170 yards and a touchdown kind of ordeal. But, I think that Westbrook is a little bit more of a safer play for me.
Pollard, you play him. Spears is out. All right, I forget if he's coming back. I think it's questionable in some way, but I mean Pollard, you play him. Will
Yeah.
Levis, I think Tommy might have taken him on the our little
Yeah,
little draft thing.
I had to unfortunately take him.
Right.
But it's he could have a decent day. I mean, he just got to play smart. He's got to stop doing those diving
No more pick
throws.
sixes. Yeah.
Well, those diving throws for a pick six and fumble, and then eats mayo on the sideline. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
But
It grossed me out thinking about it. All right. Next game, we've got Arizona Cardinals at the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota home favorites -3.5. The over-under is 44.5 points. Um, I could see this game going either way. I could see it being a severe defensive struggle, kind of like you guys were saying about the Bears and the Lions compared to what the over/under is. I would take the under. Um, you're playing Aaron Jones. You're playing Justin Jefferson. I guess reluctantly you're playing Marvin Harrison if you got him. Jordan Addison, right? Let's go. Give him rocking and roll again. I mean, we just said he's been doing okay the last
I
couple of
think it's
weeks.
a Jefferson game. I think it's a Jefferson game, and then Hawkinson is going to start stealing some targets. He's getting healthier. I mean, Addison is great. He's been showing some plays, and he's always been very streaky though. So he could, it's a boom or bust opportunity. He could have, 16 to 20 points, or he could have 4 points or less.
Both both
There's no middle ground with that for him.
both tight ends you're playing. Connor,
Yeah,
you're playing.
McBride is a lock.
Yeah, and Hawkinson's been doing well too. I mean, it's higher tier tight end players. Connor, you're playing him, and then like we said, Kyler. It's
You're pretty much playing both quarterbacks right now.
well,
You might be forced to play Kyler.
after that Kyler performance, man. It's just like it's so boomer bust with him. All right, let's move on.
I will say one
Oh
thing.
yeah,
There's
go ahead,
nothing
Anthony.
more frustrating than watching the Minnesota offense. They frustrate me to no end, especially as an Aaron Jones owner,
Yeah,
because I feel like every time they get down to the goal line, they never hand the ball off to him. They do three straight passes every single time, and it's the most frustrating thing to watch because, yeah, I think he has like three touchdowns on the air, but he should have so much more. Uh,
that's
given
the Kevin McCarthy special,
Oh my
Anthony.
God. It's frustrating. Last week he finally got in the end zone. There was a huge applause for him for actually getting a touchdown. But it's every time they're down there, you just see Sam Darnold throwing 2 yard touchdown passes to Naylor or Addison, and I'm hoping he can get in the end zone a couple of times this week.
We'll see. I'm predicting a more defensive struggle, but we'll see how that goes. All right, next game we've got Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Carolina Panthers. Tampa Bay road favorites -5.5 points. The over/under is 46.5 points. That's pretty good for Tampa. Tampa Bay. Let's round the bases here. Baker, you're playing him. Both running backs, you're
Yeah.
playing him. Mike Evans, you're playing him. Cade Otton, despite the bad performance, I think you lock and load and you play him. You take your faults as it is and move forward.
I honestly I think that they destroy the spread as well.
I
Tampa
agree.
Bay. I think Carolina put a lot out in that game last week,
That
and
was it.
that was a prime game for them to show that they can step up with the big boys. And I think they left a lot on the line, and they lost some players in the meantime. And I think that Tampa Bay wins by 20 plus in this game, and fire up White, Irving, Kate Otten, and
Everybody.
Mike Evans. I think those are your key five, including Baker. I think the only
I,
one that you could potentially start on the
I was about to
Carolina
ask you
Panthers
Carolina.
is Chuba. That's about it.
I wouldn't even want to start Chuba.
I mean, somebody's going to have to put up points, and he's probably your running back two. So I'd rather play him as a potential flex play and start somebody, as your RB2 if needed. He deserves to see the field. If they're going to score a touchdown, he's going to one that's going to score.
So I really love K-Dot in this game. I think if you have if you have Baker and you have Evans or Otten, I think it's a great stack this week
Yeah.
as well. Carolina, as we saw this past week against the Chiefs, they're vulnerable to the tight end. And I think that's why Otten's ranked third overall this week. I expect a huge bounce back week for him. Definitely a potential score. And I see Evans having a great game too.
Yeah. Yeah, Tampa Bay is going to win this game.
Yep.
Next game, we've got the Los Angeles Rams away at the New Orleans Saints. Rams are road favorites, -3 points. The over under is 49.5 points. We got a big over under here. Lots of implied points for both teams. I think New Orleans wins this game. I'll take this as an upset pick. And I think they cover the spread. I think they score a lot of points in this game. Tommy, I think you're going to get a lot of your Taysom Hill nonsense going on. On the New Orleans side, to me, it's pretty easy. Let's go Kamara, let's go Taysom Hill. Take your shot on MVS if you pick them up. Now's the time to do it. You're playing against the Rams, and the Rams side, Kyron Williams, let's go. Puka and Cooper, let's go.
And I think Puka and Cooper are going to have 10 plus targets each.
You're probably right. I mean, is there any reason not to play Stafford in this game?
No, I think both, like I said, the fireworks game before, this is going to be another fireworks game. I think they're going to combined hit close to 70 points.
Yeah, you're probably going to be
The
right.
scores are going to be in the 30s each.
I would be so happy. Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
Let me ask you a quick question. Given what the Rams went through last week against the Eagles, right? Would you start MVS with confidence, knowing that they could probably just have a huge run day because that's what the Eagles did?
Confidence is probably not the right word for MVS, but
he's never confident.
Considering that they have nobody else right now at wide receiver, and the fact that he's done it with the two main games of the
so that means fire up Taysom Hill.
No, that's why I said Taysom Hill play him this week. But your caution is well noted, Anthony. It's annoying about the Taysom Hill thing because I feel like this would be a perfect game to like, hey, this is going to be a Derek Carr game, except Taysom Hill's probably going to get at least 1 or 2 shots into the end zone with a pass or something. So maybe that erases a lot of Carr stuff. But
I'm hoping it's not a big Kamara day.
I think it might be.
I think it's going to be a universal big day for everybody. I mean, I think Kyron has a touchdown or two. Puka, Cooper, they both score a touchdown. I mean, it's going to be spread pretty nicely.
I think this hits the over. Tommy, you're with me on that?
Yeah, like I said, they're going to combine 70 points, close to 70 points, if not more. So I think this is a high scoring, no defense kind of day.
Cool. All right, let's move on. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens favorites -3 points. The over-under is a very juicy 50.5 points. Lots of points for both teams going on here. All right, so let's get through the must plays here. You got Lamar Jackson, you've got Jalen Hurts, both quarterbacks. You've got both running backs, Barkley and Henry. You've got a bunch of wide receivers, both for the Eagles, Brown and Smith, and we've got Flowers for the Ravens. You're basically playing both tight ends too, Goddard and Andrews. So the only question is, maybe do we take a shot on Likely, or do we take a shot at maybe some of the backup, the wide receiver 2 or 3 for the Ravens? How do you see this, Tommy?
Is Smith playing this week? Devonta Smith?
I believe it was questionable
because he was questionable last week. Anyway, if Smith doesn't play, then I think you do play Goddard. If Smith and Brown both play, then you don't play Goddard. He's a streaky player. When there's a lot of options, he's the last man on the totem pole. I think this could be, again, another big game, but it also, both defenses have been playing pretty decent here and there, on and off. It depends on who shows up that day. So, Baltimore's defense looked fairly decent last night, to an extent. Philadelphia's defense has been looking pretty good. I think this goes over the spread. I'm thinking, close to 55 points maybe, total combined. I mean, I think if you needed to have a spot start because of injuries or whatnot, this might be an opportunity to plug and play Hill. This is one of those games where Philadelphia could take the lead. Hill showed last week he had that huge run that gave him that touchdown. That gave him, I think he was running back in the top 10. He finished off this past week. So this is a game where he could get a lot of dump off passes. The Ravens made it very clear that if it's first and long, second and long, third and long, whatever, if it's a passing down situation, Hill's in there. Henry's not in there. So and they're favoring little targets. They could dunk targets to him or Andrews in those predicaments. So I think Hill has a nice week again this week. He's might be a nice spot start if needed in a flex.
I do think as far as the wide receivers go, especially on the Baltimore side, obviously if
Sorry, and
you can
that's sorry,
save
that's Justice Hill. That's Justice Hill.
um save Flowers, I mean, if you have them, you're going to start them. But I will say, proceed with caution. Over the last 4 weeks, the Eagles have allowed just one receiving touchdown, and only 279 yards receiving to opposing wide receivers. Those are pretty impressive numbers. Also, he's also going to have to go against Quintian Mitchell or Cooper DeJean, which is two of the top best cornerbacks in the league right now. So I just think the Baltimore receivers are up against a tough matchup this week. Like I said, obviously, if you have Zay, you're starting him. Anyone besides him, though, I'd have a hard time playing.
Who wins this game?
That's a good question.
If
Um,
it's Baltimore, if Baltimore if they win, they're not winning by a field goal. Because Tucker has not been the same old Tucker.
I
I could
think
see the
Baltimore
Ravens.
wins this game
I
Yeah, I
think
could
personally.
see the
Baltimore
Ravens
wins
taking
too.
this one.
Yeah.
I think Baltimore wins.
All right, let's move on. We've got the San Francisco 49ers at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo -6.5. The over-under is 44.5 points. I think this line has fluctuated up and down based on the Purdy situation. So for the purposes of this, I guess we'll kind of cover halfway both scenarios. Right now, we're assuming the way the last that I looked at the news right before we recorded this. Purdy is trending towards being out. That might change. And knowing the nonsense out of Kyle Shanahan and the news out of the 49ers, God knows what to make of it. That being said, you're firing up Josh Allen, you're firing up James Cook. Um, and on the 49ers side, let's go George Kittle, let's go McCaffrey. And if it's Purdy, I feel like you're rocking and rolling with Greg Jennings, like we said, and Brock Purdy. He's always a good player. This is why I purposely picked the Bills defense in our little thing. I think the if it's not Purdy, I think they just completely destroy them, and
I
the
hope
betting line reflects that.
I hope it's Purdy, to be honest, because honestly, I want to see this to be a game. This should have been like a big game. It's obviously Sunday Night Football, and watching Sunday Night Football and it be a blowout is not fun. I really hope Purdy is healthy. He comes back. He's okay. He has a lot of turkey on Thanksgiving, and he stuffs that shoulder issue, and
Tommy, you're the resident Debo owner. Are you sitting Debo
I'm sitting Debo if Purdy's not playing.
if Purdy's not playing?
If Purdy's playing, I'm firing up Debo with confidence.
Okay.
And
Mr.
I thought for sure after the Ayuk injury, Debo was going to feast the rest of the year, and that just doesn't seem to be the case.
It's up and down.
Anthony, are you starting any of these Bills wide receivers?
I like Coleman in this game. I think Coleman and Shakir could have pretty good games in this one.
Not Cooper? This is why it was so difficult. Why I
It's
brought it up on the waiver thing. How do you what do you even make of this?
Well,
It's worse than the Green Bay situation.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to get my thoughts together on this one.
Tommy, what do you think? Yeah,
well, just to piggyback off of the Debo thing, I
yeah.
just so you know, I am starting Terry McLaurin over Debo.
Oh well,
Um, yeah, I mean, but I'm also, that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you have a situation like that, you're starting him. If you don't have a situation like that, like if you got like a Cedric Tillman, going against Denver, which is the next conversation, I'm starting Debo.
Are you playing Nick Westbrook-Akine over Debo? That
Yeah,
was a good question.
yeah, I am.
Okay,
Yeah. But again, if Purdy's playing, I'm lock and loaded with him.
okay.
I will
Anthony,
say
what do you
this
think of the
though,
Bills?
the 49ers are their defense is depleted right now, and they've allowed, I think, 16 touchdown passes to wide receivers this year so far. So it's pretty favorable numbers for wide receivers. I think it could be any one of those Bills receivers that gets a receiving touchdown this week, if I'm being honest. Um, I think whoever's really going to play out of the slot probably going to benefit the most. That's my take on it, whether it's Coleman or Shakir. Um, and I see James Cook having a good game too.
I think honestly, Anthony, in terms of fantasy advice, you guys can tell me if you Disagree. In a game where Buffalo is projected to implied points total is 26 points, if you have a Bills wide receiver on your team, you're probably looking to try to start them. And if you're not going to be able to start them in a game like this with that high of an implied point total, then they're just going to perpetually be on the bench for the rest of the year. So give it a go. Take your shot on whatever the guy is. Presumably it's Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakir, or Keon Coleman. And, if you need it again, if you have plenty of other better options, fine, but presumably you're looking to try to start a guy you have on your team. This is the game to do it.
Yeah.
Kincaid's back from his injury. Considering the tight end landscape, you could do worse. I would personally, as a Kincaid owner, would like to see him getting some more targets. We'll see how that goes. Take of it what you will. Ready to move on to the Monday night game?
Yes, sir.
Monday Night Football. We have the Cleveland Browns at the Denver Broncos. Denver minus 5.5. The over-under is only 41.5 points. That does not leave many points for Cleveland. Jameis Winston does not like this line. Let's get to the
I don't know what Jameis Winston likes, or I think he doesn't dislike anything. He's the most positive person I've ever heard talk. He's also delirious too, but
he's the best.
Remember, the horse is prepared for battle.
Yeah. All right, so we've got Cortland Sutton, you're playing him. Jerry Jeudy, you're playing him. Bo Nix, I think that's it. Let's go. Rock and roll, round the bases. We're rolling with Bo Nix. Every other name on here, I feel like is up in the air. How do you guys see this?
I don't think you can start the running back situation. You need to see what's going to happen over there. Unless you're forced to, based on your roster position. I just don't have confidence, even though it's a okay matchup. I don't have confidence in starting Javonte Williams or Jaleel McLaughlin or Audric Estime. I just don't see it. So I'd feel more comfortable with Sutton and Vele. Troutman is obviously in the mix as well. I wouldn't touch that running back situation, especially if you're in the mix to try to push for a playoff position in fantasy. I would not start any of those guys with confidence. Now they can come out and have a big day. I just would not. I wouldn't risk it.
I still like Tillman in the situation. I'm still going to play him. I think just the numbers of Jameis Winston and how many attempts he's throwing per game, so close to, even in the snow game, I think he threw out over 30 attempts passing. I'm still going to start him with the target share, getting as many targets as he's getting per game. I think Judy's going to be matched up against Surtain, if I'm correct. So I think that's going to be a little bit of a tougher matchup for Judy. And I think if Tillman plays out of the slot, he can be in line for a pretty big game.
I think it's probably a good question. Same game. Would you rather start Vele or Tillman?
Say that again?
Vele or Tillman?
I'd start both.
If you have a choice of one.
Yeah.
Me personally, I want to say Tillman.
I start Vele.
I do believe in him, but I think Vele might be the better option in that situation.
He's a safer play.
Given his last few weeks and how he's trending.
Yeah. I think he's a safer play.
Yeah, I agree. And
I honestly, and sorry, and I think you do fire up Nick Chubb. He's starting to look better.
I was about to ask you, I don't know if he's starting to look better, but he's getting the goal line carries
and
there.
He starts slow. He looks a little sluggish in the beginning, but then when he's smelling the end zone, that's when he's fired up. He's trying to get there. So I could see him scoring.
And Njoku's a decent enough tight end option.
I think Chubb is an anytime touchdown pick right there.
Oh, well, of course you do. Obviously, if you couldn't tell by some of the implied point totals, which we should all do a better job of mentioning it. Some of these defensive plays are really good. Like Denver would be a really good defensive play this particular week. So yeah,
Dallas Cowboys as well.
Yeah, yep. Dallas Cowboys is great, and then of course the Kansas City Chiefs. Because Vegas has an implied point total of 15. It's one of the lowest of the year, actually. Lots of fun. Any last thoughts, gentlemen?
No.
Yeah, I do want
Sorry.
to bring up one thing real quick. I for sure thought we were going to see something on the Daniel Jones situation today, but kind of intrigued to see where he's going to end up going.
I think he's going to find his way to the Raiders.
Well, I mean, ideally, that'd be actually a good situation for him. They're not in playoff contention, but I think he could have an opportunity where he can be the full-time starter there and
Yeah.
look to further his career as a starter, if
They
that's what
can
he
move
wants to
their
do.
implied point
I've
total from 15 to 16. They can.
I've had enough talk about Daniel Jones the last 4 or 5 years. It's been rough. You know, like, outside of that one playoff run, it's just been misery.
Although
Um,
I would have loved to see him against the Giants on Thanksgiving Day if the Cowboys picked him up. That would have made it interesting.
yeah, and I would also love to see Dexter Lawrence just smack him. But yeah, we want to thank everybody for watching this video. If you guys could share, subscribe, click that link, like that video, make some comments, whatever you need to ask when it comes to start sits. You can drop some comments on there. We'll answer in a timely manner. And we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right.
Thank
Good
you
night.
very
Good night.
much.
Good
Have a
night. Good
good
night.
night.